What's up everyone? In this lesson, I'm going to be talking about the minor scale and its variants. In the previous lesson, I talked about the major scale and I showed some examples of how it sounds in musical contexts. If you haven't seen that yet, then feel free to check out the video. There's going to be a link that pops up on the top of the screen. My name is Mathew. I'm a composer and cellist and the founder of the Sound Painter Studio. I got my PhD in music composition at Northwestern University, and now I'm on a mission to help other musicians and composers to gain the skills and confidence to be able to bring their music to life. Let's jump right into it. There are three main variants to the minor scale. We have the natural minor, the harmonic minor, and the melodic minor. Let's start by talking about the natural minor, because it's the easiest one to form. All right, so we're going to write the natural minor in A minor. The reason that we're going to write this in A minor is because we have no sharps and flats. So I'm going to start in treble clef, and we will just write out the notes starting on A. So A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. These are the 7 notes of the A minor scale, the natural minor. Okay? So first we have scale degree 1, then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So if we find this on the piano, it's going to sound like this. Starting on A, you ascend the scale. The first variant that we find is the harmonic minor. And the only change that you're going to see is we're going to raise scale degree 7. So we're going to add a sharp to scale degree 7. And if you remember from our basics of music notation, this is just a symbol that's going to be placed to the left of our note head, and it's going to raise it by 1 semitone. So we will start there. This is scale degree 7, and it's raised. Now it's a leading tone. So everything else is going to be the same. Scale degrees 1 through 6 do not change in a harmonic minor. This is the first variant, and it would sound like this. Let's go to the piano. When we start with a harmonic minor, we start on the note A, and the only thing we're going to change is scale degree 7. Scale degree 7 is now going to be raised to G sharp rather than G natural, so it sounds like this. Lastly, we have the melodic minor. So again, we had our treble clef. And the changes that happen in the melodic minor is that when you ascend, you raise scale degrees 6 and 7. So ascending, we have scale degree 6 raised and scale degree 7. On the way down, we're going to lower scale degrees 7 and scale degrees 6. So it would look like this. To lower it, you add a natural so that it's back in the regular natural minor. Everything else is going to be the same. Scale degrees 1 through 5 are unchanged. Scale degrees 6 and 7 are raised ascending and lowered descending. Let's listen to this on the piano. For the melodic minor, we're going to raise 6 and 7 on the way up and lower on the way down. So it sounds like this. The reason for these changes usually has to do with harmony and melody, hence the terms harmonic and melodic minor. In chord progressions and melodies in the minor mode, usually you're going to see 6 and 7 raised so that it creates gravitational pull towards the tonic or scale degree 1. And on the way down, you're going to pull away from 1 to descend to 5, down to 3, back to 1, because of these very, very strong harmonic relationships that are all related to the tonic. And we'll talk more about gravitational pull and harmony in future lessons. So the reason to raise scale degree 7 in the harmonic minor is because very often a chord built on scale degree 5, the dominant chord, has a raised leading tone that creates gravitational pull towards the tonic. If it were a minor chord, it wouldn't have the same intensity. In other words, if we have a naturalized scale degree 7 or the natural minor, it doesn't quite have the same pull. Let's hear how it would sound if we don't raise scale degree 7. So we start on scale degree 5, which is E, and then we just go by thirds in the natural minor, And let's now go back to our one chord, or the tonic chord, a triad built on scale degree 1. More close together. So there is sort of a gravitational pull between these two chords, but it's a little bit loose. There's like kind of a slack sensation between these chords. If we raise scale degree 7, it creates a much bigger electrical charge or gravitational pull towards tonic. In other words, the resolution to tonic in this case sounds inevitable. Whereas in the other chord, you could potentially go to a different chord and it would work. In the case of the melodic minor, this scale mainly comes from studying 18th century European music. And you'll see it pop up in a lot of Bach's music. So we raise 6 and 7 on the way up because it creates a pull towards tonic, and we lower on the way down because it creates a pull away from tonic towards either the dominant, the mediant, or the tonic below it. If we look at the configuration of whole steps and half steps in the natural minor, we're going to see something that's slightly different from the major scale. Let's go back to our staff paper and write it out on the staff. So now let's take a look at the configuration of whole steps and half steps in natural minor. So the first step from A to B is going to be a whole step, and then B to C is a half step. Then we have whole step, half step between 5 and 6, and everything else is a whole step. So now the placement of our half steps and whole steps are between 2 and 3 and 5 and 6 in terms of the scale degree numbers, right? And if you notice, these are the same notes in C major where we have our half steps. Everything else is going to be a whole step. Now, in terms of the harmonic minor, we add a half step. So we still have our half step here between B and C. We still have a half step between E and F, but now we add an additional half step from G sharp to A. We add a 7, sharp 7 leading tone. In the melodic minor, we have both of these scales combined. So we have half steps between 2 and 3 in the beginning, then we have 7 to 1 at the end, and then 6 to 5 and 3 to 2. Everything else that's not labeled is a whole step. In terms of scale degree names, everything is the same as it was in the major scale. The only difference is going to be in the case of the natural minor. We now have a new scale degree name, which we refer to as the subtonic. Everything else is the same. 1 is still tonic, 2 is still the supertonic, 3 is the mediant, 4 is the subdominant, 5 is the dominant, 6 is the mediant, and then 7, when it's raised, is a leading tone. When it's natural, like in the case of the natural minor scale and the descending melodic minor, it's called the subtonic because it's below the tonic. That's the only new scale degree name that we have in the minor variants. Now let's take a look at how this scale relates to major. So let's turn the page. If we were to line up the two scales, you'll notice that the scale lines up on scale degree 6. So we'll write out our C major scale. And now I'm going to write slightly back the A minor scale, the natural minor. And you'll see that they have 7 common tones. The way that they line up is that in the natural minor, C is scale degree 3, and in C major, C is scale degree 1, which means that A is going to be scale degree 6 in C major, scale degree 1 in A minor. So anytime you want to find the relative minor of a major scale, you think of the tonic and either go down a third or up a sixth. If you go down a third, you'll get to A. If you go up a sixth, you'll get to A. And that's the tonic of the relative minor. And that's going to lead us into our conversation on the circle of fifths, which we'll talk about in the next video. So now let's listen to a couple of examples on the piano. We're going to take the same musical examples from the previous lesson on major scales, and we're going to put them in minor now. So we're going to start with our C major prelude. We're going to translate it into C minor. This was how it sounded in major. Now we're going to change it to the minor scale. So in this case, there are instances where I have to raise scale degree 7 so that harmonically it makes sense. Now let's take the cello prelude from the previous example, which is originally in G major, and we're going to make it G minor. I hope this video was helpful in understanding the minor scale and its variants. In the next lesson, I'm going to be talking about the circle of fifths, and then after that, we're going to start talking about melody. See you in the next lesson.